Iran just revealed a missile no one knew existed and used it immediately in combat. Within hours, Israeli energy infrastructure was hit, US military bases across the Gulf were targeted, and one of the most important energy hubs on Earth was damaged. At the same time, oil prices are surging, global trade is slowing down, and the Strait of Hormuz is effectively shutting. This isn't just another update in a regional war. This is the moment the conflict became global. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury. The goal was clear: destroy Iran's nuclear program, cripple its military infrastructure, eliminate key leadership. The operation succeeded in one major objective. Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, was killed. His successor, Mojtaba Khamenei, took power almost immediately and made one promise: the war would not end quickly, and the Strait of Hormuz could be closed. This war was expected to last days, maybe a week. Instead, we are now 20 days in experiencing wave 65 of Iranian attacks. That number alone tells you everything. This isn't a collapsing response. This is sustained retaliation and escalation. Wave 65 wasn't just another missile barrage. It was different for one reason. Iran used a weapon no one had publicly identified before, the Nasra missile. And it didn't test it quietly, it used it directly on high-value targets. That signals confidence, and it signals preparation. So what makes this missile so important? The Nasra is believed to have a range of around 1950 kilometers, carry heavy or multiple warheads, and most importantly, use terminal phase guidance. That last feature changes everything. Instead of following a predictable arc, the missile can adjust its path in the final seconds. Missile defense systems like Patriot Arrow David's Sling are designed for predictable trajectories. If the missile moves at the last moment, interception becomes far less reliable. Modern missile defense is built on prediction: track the missile, calculate its path, intercept. But a maneuvering warhead breaks that logic. Even a small change in direction at high speed can cause an interceptor to miss completely. And if the Nasra also carries multiple warheads, that multiplies the problem. This could explain why several critical targets were hit despite advanced defenses. One of the main targets was Israel's Haifa Bazan refinery. This facility supplies over half of Israel's fuel, handles oil refining and petrochemicals. The strike caused fires, power outages, infrastructure damage. Officials called the damage limited, but markets reacted differently. Energy stocks dropped 6 to 10%. That suggests something more serious beneath the surface. At the same time, Iran targeted US military positions across the region: Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Al Dhafra Air Base. These bases are critical for air operations, surveillance, command, and control. This marks a clear shift. The war is no longer indirect. It is now directly involving multiple countries. There's a deeper shift happening behind these attacks. Iran is now using multiple missile systems in one wave, a mix of solid fuel and liquid fuel missiles. Mobile launch platforms, solid fuel missiles launch faster, are harder to detect. Mobile launchers mean even if fixed sites are destroyed, the threat remains. This is a shift from mass attacks, precision strikes, static bases, mobile warfare. On the same day, a US F-35 stealth fighter was forced into an emergency landing. Reports suggest it may have been hit by infrared-guided air defenses. This is important because stealth aircraft are designed to evade radar, not heat detection. Infrared systems don't emit signals, don't trigger warnings, track heat instead. That means the pilot may not even know a missile is coming. If confirmed, this would be the first combat damage to an F-35. The broader air war is also showing signs of strain. Reported US losses include 3 F-15E fighters, friendly fire, 1 tanker crash, 6 Nishti, multiple drones destroyed, several aircraft damaged on the ground, 1 F-35 damaged, personnel 13 killed, 200 wounded. These are not the numbers of a one-sided conflict. The real escalation started when Israel struck Iran's South Pars gas field. This field supplies 70–80% of Iran's natural gas. Iran responded by targeting energy infrastructure across the Gulf. And then the situation escalated even further. Iran declared the Strait of Hormuz closed, one of the most important oil routes in the world. Normally, around 20 million barrels of oil per day pass through this narrow stretch of water, but now that flow has been severely disrupted. Tanker traffic dropped by nearly 70%, and more than 150 ships were left waiting outside the strait, unable to pass safely. Only a small portion of that oil is being rerouted through alternative pipelines, which means, in simple terms, a massive chunk of the world's oil supply is suddenly not reaching the market. And this is where the global impact becomes very real. As supply dropped, oil prices reacted immediately. Prices surged past $120 per barrel, rising rapidly within days of the disruption. This is one of the fastest spikes in recent years. And the reason is simple: less oil supply, while global demand remains the same, creates pressure across the entire system. From transportation to electricity, everything starts getting affected. Now, this doesn't just stay in the oil market. When oil supply is disrupted at this scale, it affects almost everything else. Countries that depend on imported energy begin to feel pressure. Industries slow down, costs increase, and governments are forced to respond quickly. Even emergency oil reserves are only designed to handle short-term shocks, not a prolonged disruption like this. At the same time, the region itself is becoming more dangerous. There have been multiple reports of attacks on ships moving through or near the Strait of Hormuz. This has made shipping companies more cautious. Some are delaying routes, others are avoiding the area entirely. And when ships stop moving, global trade slows down with them. All of this creates a chain reaction. Energy supply is disrupted, shipping is affected, markets react, and slowly pressure builds across the global system. This is how a regional conflict begins to impact countries far beyond the battlefield. Governments and global organizations are now trying to manage the situation. Emergency measures are being discussed, oil reserves are being released, alternative supply routes are being explored. But these are temporary solutions. They don't fully replace what's being lost through the Strait of Hormuz. At the same time, there is a lot of confusion around what's actually happening. Different sides are giving different versions of events. Some say the situation is under control, others suggest it is getting worse. And in conflicts like this, information itself becomes part of the battlefield. So where does this leave us? The war is still ongoing. The situation is still evolving. And the impact is no longer limited to one region. What started as a military operation has now expanded into something much larger, and slowly the effects begin to show in everyday life. Air travel is disrupted in affected regions. Flights are reduced. Movement becomes more restricted. These are the kinds of changes that show how close the conflict is getting to civilian systems. Even as defenses remain active, the threat hasn't disappeared. Missile attacks continue, interceptions continue, but every wave adds pressure, not in one single moment, but gradually over time. At the same time, Iran itself is under pressure. It has taken significant damage internally, and yet it continues to respond, which raises an important question. How long can both sides continue at this pace? And that brings us to the biggest issue. There is still no clear endpoint, no clear timeline, no defined conditions for stopping, which means the situation remains open and unpredictable. And right now, the direction this goes next depends on what happens in the coming days. What do you think happens next? Will this escalate even further? Or is a ceasefire still possible? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.